Jumping straight into today's episode, guys, we have a very long and big episode planned for you, but let's jump into the first section of today's video. We're going to go ahead and create a bit of a ground start for Shaba and go ahead and integrate into the other sections. But for the first question on the show that we ask all our guests, how did you discover reselling and botting?
It was back in like 2014, 2015 when I was actually playing Call of Duty, and my cousin was telling me about these shoes that he just got, and I didn't think they were anything like special, whatever. So I started Googling just like what they were because he was making such like a big deal about it. And after seeing like all these different types of Jordans, like they had Jordan 1, Jordan 2, all these different colorways for each one, I just got really interested. And from there, I just really started following all these pages on Instagram, and I just saw like, okay, these shoes are dropping for 160 and they're reselling for a ton. And then I started looking at like the in stores, like the foot sites and all that, such as like Foot Locker, Champs, and all those. I saw they had like these raffles, and I just started going through these raffles. And the first like few times I started going for shoes, I kept on like losing. I thought they were like rigged, where like nobody ever wins. And after that, I just started like winning all these raffles, and I was reselling on eBay. And I guess it just like started from there. Then I started getting onto online stuff. Botting wasn't anything that I was really big into when I first started. It was within like the last few years, I would say I really started getting into botting, especially Supreme. Shopify wasn't really anything that I was really that involved with. It was more Supreme, and then I kind of just went off from there and just started just helping people. So that's I guess how I got into reselling.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, and it's kind of typical for most people that do come on the show. They do say that like a friend goes ahead and recommends or shows them this little mini culture, and I feel like a lot of people flock towards it because there's a lot of money inside whilst maintaining a type of community aspect. And some may say that the more knowledge you have about this industry, the more money you will make. So it's really interesting to see you first developed your manual reselling knowledge, and then only recently in the past couple of years you got into botting, and specifically Supreme, which is one of the sections on today's episode. So it's really interesting to see how you integrate into both. Moving on to the next question, why was reselling something you wanted to pursue?
When I first saw like how much money I guess you can make off reselling these shoes, at the time I was actually pretty young and I didn't have that much money, so I actually asked my parents for like $200 loan or whatever. And I was just like telling them like there's like really no risk. Like I can get these shoes off of, let's say, like a foot site. And if I'm not able to resell it, because at the time there wasn't all these tools like to see how much shoes would resell for if they're in demand or whatever. So I kind of like just bought them just like on a limb, and if they didn't resell, I could just go return it and get all my money back. So there, in my mind, like at the time, it was like a no risk, I guess, opportunity. And after that, I just like started getting like really big into it. I would just like always like every Saturday at like 10 or whatever, I would just like be on the site refreshing, trying to get it. Sometimes I would take L, sometimes I would walk away with three or so manual. So it was just, I guess, just like the hype of like making like let's say $50 at the time, which was a lot because like at the start, all I started with was $20 that my parents gave me, or $200 that my parents gave me, and went up from there. Just all this accumulation of money that I got at such a young age that really made me drive for it.
Yeah, I definitely do agree there. Personally, that was one of the motivating factors behind me continuing to resell, and a lot of guests do say that. And a lot of people in the community can say that it's very money focused community. And obviously there's positives and negatives to that, but the overall positives is that you're growing your finances, you can go out and do certain stuff in your life, especially at a young age when you're making $60. Like a $60 at a young age is like a video game. Like usually that would take a little bit of money to save up for. So if you're making that money on a consistent basis on loads of pairs, you're kind of free to do what you want, and you can kind of create this element of independence from a young age. So it's really nice to see. Well guys, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Shaba represents Tidal, Tsunami and F3. So the first section of today's premiere, if you guys are watching on Spotify, the first section of today's episode is Tidal. Tidal is a marketplace, arguably, debatably the biggest marketplace at the moment. So let's jump straight into today's section. Where did the name Tidal come from?
When I first started, like within the Discord community, I actually started with Chef Adar, and we had like this extension thing. And there was this one guy, his name is Fly Nation, and he used to do our bot tutorials. And on his like bot tutorials and like on his like YouTube page, like all these different things he used to do, he always used to say, "This is the wave, man. This is the wave." And I was like, that's like such a catchy like thing to say, like that's the wave. So I actually made my first like open like cook group, I guess you could say. It's like a free group, and it was called The Wave. And from there, I guess I just kept it with like the water theme, and that's how I got Tsunami, and then from there I got Tidal. So I guess it was just like all these like things that trickled off each other. Where it started with this free group, and then it went to the paid group, which is Tsunami, and then the Tidal. So I guess it's just like that common theme. I just stuck with it.
Yeah, I feel like people that do know you and do know your accomplishments, they have that little war element theme, and that was something I was kind of interested about. And I didn't actually pinpoint it until I actually researched it. Like Tidal and Tsunami, obviously war elements very, very related to each other, and I kind of pinpointed that. I don't think a lot of people would pay attention to that, but it's really, really interesting to see, and it kind of reflects your character a bit. But moving on to the next question: what inspired you to create a marketplace where you can buy, sell, and trade bots and services?
So when we first started Feather, obviously it was like in high demand because at the start, I mean, we had pretty good success, especially for this random bot that just came out of nowhere. So I actually a title before it was what it was just like a Feather marketplace, and before that even actually I was actually a middleman on Botmart because at the time, Botmart middleman would always just like DM me, like trying to verify information or whatever. And it took up a lot of my time. So I was like, why don't I just get on Botmart and just middleman feathers? And I saw that like there were so many times that I was just like continuously just doing all these ticks for feather, like one after another. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna make my own server, and I'm just gonna do like a want to sell feather and want to buy feather. And I got the idea from WAP actually, because WAP used to have that, and so I kind of like copied what his idea was. So I just made that, and I was just like the middleman, and just only feather. And after a while, I was like, this is actually like something that like is actually pretty cool. Like there's like Botmart where they have all these want to sell and want to buy channels. Why don't I just like target it so there's specific channels? And that's how I guess the current format, if you've seen it, where you have every single bot where it says want to sell, want to buy, want to rent out. Like every single one is targeted for like the most popular bots, and that was kind of just like starting from like the feather thing and just like expanding out and just like I guess making it like expand. I don't know how to explain it. Just like it's so much more organized. I know like a lot of people who are in title, like they just really like the format. I understand that Botmart I guess adopted the format too, and just people just love it, just like because not everything is getting spammed into one. You can just see the stuff that you want to see and you can ignore the rest.
Yeah, my personal opinion about Tidal is that it's very, very organized. It's really easy to navigate through. If like I'm a new user, or I've actually had experiences in the past where new people come to me in the community and they're like, "What bots do you actually recommend me to buy?" So for Supreme, and I'd say like Adept or F3 or whatever bot is popping at the time with the most consistent success based on his region. Then literally I would just send them an invite to Tidal. They'd go to the section. It's really easy to find for experienced users and regular users. So I definitely think that marketplaces should adopt this kind of mentality and organization skill of segregating one to sell and one to buy per bot, just because it's a lot more neat and a lot more organized. But moving on to the next question: when creating something this big with this many users, thousands of users within the group, what were some of the hardships you faced in the beginning of creating Tidal?
I think in the beginning, a lot of the hardships and like it was just like I guess a lot of my time I guess went into it also because like at the time we only had like two or three middlemen, and we were actually getting quite a few transactions for our size, more than many of the marketplaces that are like 3 or 4 thousand. We were actually getting quite a few tickets, so we were actually always being busy with that. So kind of took my time away from other things. So that's why I kind of added more middlemen. And as I made more middlemen, the response times were faster. And that's kind of what made it grow so fast. Also, I had constant dedication to like promotions for it. So many bots were also shouting us out with invite links. I did a ton with Feather because at the time it was in such high demand. I was getting tons of invites through that. So it's just a lot of time management that was taken away for building it. But now I'm kind of focusing away from title, where I have like people on payroll where they're kind of like managing it and helping me with that. So at the beginning it was a lot all me, but now I'm kind of like giving it to other people slowly.
Yeah, I think at the beginning it was a lot to set up because it's a very unique idea. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of organization. But I feel like Tidal is at a point where it has all the chance for all the big bots, and if another big bot comes along, it's literally just a process of adding a new category and but in one to sell, one to buy, people can go in there and do the necessary things. You've got a whole team of ticket middlemen. I've personally used Tidal for a lot of my transactions. They're always active, they're always ready, they're very experienced with what to do. They have certain requirements per ticket, so it's really all organized. So I feel like that is a very, very good thing for you to like take time away from Tidal, focus on Tsunami, focus on F3, and if you have people in place to manage Tidal and still maintain its good rep, then obviously that is very, very good as well. But moving on to the next question. When you created Tidal, what were some of the advantages you saw for yourself?
I think a lot of the advantages that originally that I kind of saw and that I was getting a lot closer to a lot of these devs of these bots. So I could ask them kind of like for some favors or whatever. If it's like giveaways or group buys, like I kind of like was kind of getting more involved with like outside the community than just like with what I was involved with. And I allowed me to like to network a lot. And if you ask any of the middlemen also, like they'll tell you like, cause they're always talking to the devs and all that about whatever. And just like the overall connection just working with Tidal is just so rewarding. Like you get to know so many people, if it's group owners, if it's bot devs, it's just overall it's a great experience. It keeps you on your toes and it just makes you really aware of what's going on like in the community. Like if you're not like really involved with like the backgrounds like a middlemaning and moderating like Tidal, like you have no idea really what's going on. Like there's so many things that all these bot companies and groups are doing that like a lot of like the average people in this community have no idea about.
Yeah, connections in this community is definitely one of the things that I've slowly developed over my time creating the bot talk and kind of developing my name. And I definitely can agree with you there. Connections in this community do get you the most far. Obviously, there is favors that do come with that, and that's very, very nice. Like, obviously, if a bot dev or a group owner is going to give you a favor and try to help you out, then obviously that's really nice. But those connections and maintaining those friendships, so to say, it's very, very good to help you in your future ventures and overall just help you in the community. But moving on to the next question. Flipping the coin, what are some of the disadvantages you faced when creating Tidal?
So some of the disadvantages that I faced was just like a lot of like the scams that happen. We can't stop them all. Last time I checked, there's around 90 transactions or so in Tidal a day, and we were able to stop most of the scams and safely do all the transactions, but there's always like one or two that slip away once every other week or month or whatever it is. And if that happens, like I try to work with the seller maybe to help them with like a chargeback if that's an option, or talk to the bot devs. And if that doesn't happen, then I actually end up reimbursing them for whatever they pay for the bot. And that actually happened recently with a PD key where the seller unbound and we bound it to a middleman and then we bound it back to the buyer, and somehow it got like messed up with like the thing, and the buyer actually ended up losing it a few days later. So I ended up having to reimburse that person, and that's why I kind of created the $3 membership every 3 months, because I kind of have a set like pot, I guess you can call it, on the side where if something like this happens, I just take it out of that and I reimburse the person, so it's not coming out of my personal money. So it's kind of like a reputation that we have. Like if something's going to happen, we're paying a middleman fee. We're not going to just say, "Oh, that's it. Sorry." We tried all we can. Like I'm going to try to help you as much as we can. And I work a lot with Sneaky and Beefman from Botmart a ton. Like we talk all the time, and they're a great team. And I guess with Tidal and Botmart, I guess you can kind of call it like a little partnership where we just bounce information back and forth, and we're able to like communicate and get a lot of information for each other.
Picking up how you answer that, like you said before, connections is a very underrated thing in this community. It's something to maintain, and if you didn't have that connection with Beef and Sneaky, then you wouldn't be able to bounce information off each other, and arguably Tidal wouldn't be as successful as it is in maintaining this kind of 99% safe transaction rate. And obviously there are some slip ups here and there, but like you said, you do talk to bot devs, you do try charge back the transaction in the right way, and if that doesn't work, you have a reserve pot for the membership money to go ahead and reimburse. So I think that's a very, very commendable thing to notice. Moving on to the final question for the Tidal section of today's episode. Have you ever considered creating a website for Tidal to allow users to sell, buy services, and buy bot online instantly?
Right now, I don't think something I'm planning on doing. The Discord. I like the human interactions. A lot of the members like that too. I mean, if they want that automated system, they have Bot Broker. Bot Broker is a great website. They have a great idea. There are a few things that are wrong with it. There are some loopholes that it needs to be sorted out. But overall, I mean, the concept, everything is a great concept, and I think what they have going for them is great. I do commend them for that, because that is an idea that I did have, and I was trying to get devs to do before they even announced it, and just like the cost and all that wasn't where I was willing to spend it on. But what they were able to do with that is just like a great thing. And if they want a if people want to like deal with the website and all that, they always have that resource. But as far as like the human interaction, all that, people love that. People like talking like within the ticket, like seeing how their day are, or how their day is, and all that within the ticket while a middleman's checking your key or whatever the deal is. So I think just keeping that there is something that's going to really allow us to grow more. And if they don't like that, then they have other resources.
Yeah, touching on your point that I feel like talking with middlemans does create this type of reputation with the business, and it kind of recommends people to go there, because I feel like if I was talking to someone of a middleman and I was saying, oh, how's your day going? And he kind of created this really easy experience for me and he showed me how to use the dashboard for a bot or a group, I'd 100% go back there versus going to a website. That's nothing to knock BotBroker. BotBroker, like you said, is an exceptional service. There are a couple of things that need to work on, but it's a very, very good idea. And like, if I didn't want to deal with someone, I'd definitely go to the website and just check out, because I think it's definitely two different things. It's whether you want to deal with someone and know the seller and know the middleman, or you simply just want to put the money in and get your bot and get it sent to you. So it's definitely kind of two different worlds, and it just depends on the situation, the key, and the market circulation for the key and the worth of it. Maybe it's cheaper on BotBroker, maybe it's cheaper in Tidal. Whichever you want to go for, you're very, very two good alternatives in the community. To end this section of today's episode, we are going to release a Tidal coupon code. You guys want to head to the link on screen. It will be down below. Go down below into the description. It'll be called Tidal. Click on the link. If you guys want to buy a membership to join Tidal, it's a group we've just been talking about. You can go ahead and buy and sell your bots and services very, very easily. You can be handled by a very, very talented middleman group. Obviously, Shaba does own and represent this group as well. So all you guys want to do is go ahead and buy a membership and use code TheBotTalk. It is on the screen right now, no capitalization at checkout. It's a Shopify checkout, so once you use that, the coupon will activate and you will get a cheaper membership. Jumping into the second section of today's episode, we have Tsunami. Tsunami is one of the biggest groups in the community. We're gonna go ahead and dissect Tsunami, jump into it for the second section of today's episode. So where did the name Tsunami come from?
So as I said earlier, like I had this free group where it was called The Wave, and I just kept like that water theme, and from there I actually named Tsunami The Wave Part 2. And that was during like our I guess trial thing. It was like for a week or so, and I told people, if you can come up with like a cool name, I'll give you a free month or whatever it was. And all these names came in, and actually Tsunami came in like 10 times, and like I was like, damn, like I have to do this one. So I guess it was just from like member participation. They kind of gave me that drive to go for like the same water theme, and then from there I just like decided on my own for title. So
Yeah, I definitely do agree that type of water element. When I was researching you, it was very, very interesting, and I feel like that does reflect some of your past, because all those names have a tangible history period you can go ahead and talk about, and it's very, very nice to look upon. Moving on to the next question: where did the motivation come from behind creating a group?
originally I was actually so like I said about that free cook group kind of thing. I was actually I used to do group buys, and I used to take like a commission thing from them. And this guy actually came up to me before I even knew what a cook like the paid ones were. And the guy came up to me, he told me, hey, do you want to host like a group buy for me for my group? And I was like, what do you mean like a group, like what is this? And he was like telling me all the features about how they offer monitors, and they offer like all this like just all these different things that are way different than what we offer now. Like it's just crazy the amount of information that we've expanded to. But it gave me like just the idea of like, okay, this guy's charging like $15-20 a month for this information I could provide. This is like nothing. I'm offering this for free to people. So I guess I went through the trial, and I kind of taken features out of the free one, and I kind of just started putting them into the paid one. And slowly I guess we went from there, and I started the group at $25 a month. And I still have like a few members from like the original thing, and just like it's crazy. Like these people stuck with me from when I didn't have anybody to where it's at now. So I guess all these other groups that were started just gave me the idea, and I just like went from there.
Yeah, I definitely do think that if you have the knowledge and you're already providing it for free and you see a type of business venture there, it's very, very good. And personally, I think Tsunami has helped its growth with F3 and Tidal, and all three sections have kind of helped each other grow and created this like legion of businesses that you own. So I definitely think creating Tsunami was a very, very good idea. Moving on to the next question. Obviously, when creating Tsunami, it's a big business. It's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. What were some of the difficulties you first faced with when creating it?
I guess when I first started Tsunami, I mean, a lot of the stuff I was doing in the free group, I was doing in the paid one, so it wasn't I guess that big of a difference for me. It took a lot of time from me. Before when I started Tsunami, Feather wasn't actually like public yet. It was still being developed, and so I didn't have that much time dedicated to Feather. But a lot of it was going to Chef Adar, because I was still with him at the time, and we were working on his extension. So I was doing support, I was doing keywords, I was doing everything for him at the time. We had like a huge group. It was like 2,000 members at the time. That was like huge. Like the community wasn't like as big as it is now. 2,000 at that time was like crazy. So I was kind of managing between that and the cook group, and because it was just between like me, Salty, which was one of my guys who works on Feather now, and I guess one other staff member, and we were just running the whole group ourselves and doing support, site lists, everything. So we were just like, it was funny.
Yeah, I definitely do think time management is one of those things people tend to struggle with because they want to create all these projects and it ends up taking up a lot of time, and time allocation as well as balancing it with your personal life is definitely something to work on. I think every entrepreneur kind of discovers that in their own drought. They kind of see all the downsides and the positives and they kind of create a balance. It's very nice to see that you eventually create that balance. But obviously, the early days of every project is very hectic, so it's nice for people to know that. Moving on to the next question. Did you see any immediate benefits when creating Tsunami?
No, not at all, really, because at the time it actually cost me a lot of money, and I was actually going negative every month for I think it was like close to like 11 months straight where I was just constantly dumping more money into it, more money on monitors, more money on staff and all this. Like I would never allow a staff member to work for free. And that was like one of my like my models, I guess I would say, because I know like a lot of these groups, even now, like the big ones, they don't pay their staff, which is something that really troubles me, and that's something that allows me to keep my staff. Like sometimes like there's these staff members who sometimes I have to let go and they just beg me like, no, I can't, like please, like I'll work hard or whatever, because like they know like I pay them always on time. It's always on the first of the month. Like it's just like something that that's something I always stuck to. So that was something that also hurt me at the same time, because I always had that idea where nobody's gonna work for free, but at the same time I was not making any money at all. So it did take a lot of time to see like initial benefits of creating it, but after a while, like it really started to kick in with the popularity and with the more advanced features that we added to it.
Yeah, I have to do think that some entrepreneurs within the community, if they don't see an immediate turnover or they break even, they tend to dip out the project. But it's really, really nice to see and really inspiring to see that for an extended period of time, nearly a year, 11 months, you were going negative and you still pursued and you were persistent with it and you created this big group. So it's very commendable of you to do. Moving on to the next question. Due to people knowing your affiliation with F3, how did people respond when you were making a group?
My affiliation with Feather didn't really affect Tsunami that much, because at the time it was being developed. I don't think that many people knew what Feather was, but it was more of Chef Adar that really helped me a lot, because they already knew who I was, what I stood for, like my work ethic. So it allowed me to gain members and followers and just like this demand for it a lot faster than many of the groups that were being created at the time. So um, I think just being able to like if you have like something going, people already know you. I feel like it's just so much easier than people who are just new to the game where nobody knows who they are. It's just a completely different task.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I feel like there's this element of when you see a reputable person or someone you've seen on the timeline before creating a project, you're more inclined to invest money, or invest time, or invest, give an interest into this thing because you actually know them. You kind of know the bit of their personality that they portray on the timeline, and you kind of create understanding versus some random person with 20 followers that you've never heard of before. I know that kind of sounds harsh, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like the customer kind of trusts you. So I feel like creating those connections early on did really benefit you.
Yeah, they have something to base like past projects on if they were successful or not.
Moving on to the next question. At this current point in your personal life, your financial gain, or overall, what were the positives of creating this group?
So a lot of the positives that I've seen from the group wasn't just about making money, but more of like the community that we've created. A lot of the guys that are in there see the group as like a family more than just something they pay X amount of money to monthly. It's just like a lot of the guys just they're always talking there, they're always joking around. If you ask any of the guys, like, is there like another group that has like a activity and communication like the way we do? And a lot of them will tell you no. Like there's something that Tsunami has that's unique to it, and um, I take a lot of pride into that, and we actually made a separate channel, for, like, those guys that, like, are really close to each other. There's about, like, I would have to say, like, around 50 or so of them, and they just all just, like, joke around, whatever, like, it's like an unmoderated they do whatever they do, and it's just, like, a good time, like, people just enjoy being in Tsunami and talking there, and slowly we just keep adding more people who are active and who always, like, are involved with the group, so it's just something that I like and that just, like, the other guys like too.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that's a positive, and it's really nice to see that you're creating this like family community aspect within the group, and that kind of represents nicely because if let's say the group goes under fire in the future, those individuals can go on and defend the groups. It's always nice to see that your customer base is very, very attached to the company, and that overall just makes it a lot more easier to run and a lot more positive to run. But flipping the coin, what are some of the negatives of creating this group?
Just the high cost, like, the amount like, a lot of people don't understand, I guess, the amount of money that it would take to, create a group, as well as the amount of time that it takes to organize everything between drops and, group buys and just, everything that it takes to just, like, to run a group is just crazy. Crazy expensive, crazy amount of time that's involved in. It's kinda sad with, like, a lot of guys that are, I guess, in groups and in bots, like, I see it all the time with just different things where, let's think about like flops like a complete drop. Like everybody will drop like an L in the chat. I know it happens a few times in Feather where it's like the worst feeling in the world, especially like if you're a group owner and people say, "Oh, I haven't copped or whatever." Like, let's like figure out what's going on. Like, don't just be like rude or whatever about it. There's something that maybe you're doing wrong that we can expand upon. So that's something that I see that, is like one of the worst feelings where you put all this time, you put all this money into it, and then people still complain or they're rude about.
Yeah, I definitely do think there is a bit of a toxic element within the community, and that kind of relates back to the beginning when I mentioned where this is a money-focused community. People are striving for money. People want a lot more money than they originally have. They put money in to get money out. So I feel like when that doesn't go to plan, people try to create this whole negative attitude to it. And I see groups take acts towards that, like muting general chats during drops, which obviously are certain techniques to avoid that. But I feel like the community is kind of the way it is, so that is something to pay attention to. And I feel like all bot owners and group owners should try to maintain like a healthy aspect, because obviously it can't get to you, and bot owners and group owners that have came on the episodes before have said that kind of gets to them when obviously something out of their control happens and users don't cook, because at the end of the day it is their product. So when some stuff like this happens, it's always good for the member just to maintain that kind of normal attitude or positive attitude, because obviously you win some, you lose some. That's just kind of how it goes. Touching on something you said there, you did say that you need a lot of people to run this group and you have a lot of staff members. What are some of these skills or characteristics you look for in someone when recruiting staff members?
One of the big ones is past experience. I know a lot of guys message me all the time saying, "Hey, I want to like be a moderator, staff, or support or whatever for Tsunami." I'm like, okay, like what do you have to offer? Like first, first thing I asked, like, what groups do you work for? What have you worked for in the past? And like different stuff like that. And a lot of the guys say, I haven't worked for anybody. I have no past experience, and that's something that really turns me off because you're trying to jump into something that you really don't understand. And with a group being as big as mine, um, it's something that, I wanna be able to put you in, like, a situation, and then you're able to do it yourselves. Because I do have, like, a lot of things that I'm doing as well, and somebody I can't have somebody who's completely dependent on me telling them what to do. I wanna be kinda be independent and just be able to work and, work with the other staff members as well. Something that, I kinda look for, just somebody who's able to put in a lot of time, and if they do, then they get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I feel like experienced individuals that kind of know how these groups go is definitely needed for big groups, because they need to know how it goes. They need to know the criticism they might receive, or the feedback they might receive after a drop. So having that past experience is definitely something that is needed. But moving on to the next question, what are some of the responsibilities that come with owning a group?
I guess, just being able to make sure that everybody feels like, they're benefiting in some type of way, as well as making sure that the community is safe and, like, isn't, I guess, toxic in a way where, I know like a lot of the members will might get like a little bit just like I guess have like bad language and stuff like that, where a lot of members will get turned off by that and may actually end up canceling their membership because of that. So I try to make sure that the environment and like the chats and all that are like a good environment and they're happy, they're enjoyable, and everybody's like welcoming each other and they're able to like to participate and not be criticized. Like I know that at one point there was actually a member who asked a question and one of the other members like made fun of him, like, why are you like asking such like a basic question like that, whatever. And I actually got really mad. I actually terminated his membership just because he was just being so rude. So I just feel like be able to have like a good community where everybody feels like they're welcome to everything is just something that I feel responsible for. And if they don't, then it's something that I did wrong.
Yeah, I definitely do think new consumers, new people that come into this market are definitely looking for groups that welcome new people with opening arms. I feel like it comes with certain bots and certain groups. I'm not going to name names, but there are certain bots and groups that have this type of mentality where if you're asking washed questions, you will immediately be cancelled. You'll just be completely ignored and made fun of because people expect you to know everything about botting. But botting is one of those things where it's you learn as you go. It's not something you get given a handbook, you go study it for a couple hours and you know what you're doing. Experience does lead to knowledge, and I feel like the longer you've been in this game, the more you'll know. So when new people come in, it's definitely good to welcome their opening arms and go ahead and help them just because it makes it a lot easier. Moving on to the next question, how do you balance owning Tsunami whilst owning F3 and how does this affect your personal life?
I guess it takes a lot of time out of my day. I actually am a full-time student. I do Tsunami, I do Feather, I do Tidal. So between everything, just like the amount of time I sleep is very minimal. Like I know last week, I actually had finals weekend. Between balancing everything, I think I slept like 6 hours in like 3 days or something. It was like something ridiculous like that. Like at the end of like my finals, my eyes were just like throbbing because how I guess tired I was. So I guess like between like stress and like sleep, like it's crazy. And I really don't know how I managed it this day, but I feel like starting out slow with start doing Chefadar and doing Tsunami in the beginning really helped me a little bit with the time management because I was at school at that time too. And as I built like the brands up more and more, I was able to, I guess, slowly like balance it even better. So definitely between that, but it's definitely is a lot no matter what.
Yeah, I feel like any bot owner, group owner can comment to that where like time management is definitely one thing they have to work on. And I feel like there's only X amount of hours in a day. Everyone says when you're doing stuff like this, there needs to be more hours a day, more days in a week just to do things because these things take up a lot of time. You're managing servers with thousands of users, with every single user having an expectation to see information, see guides. Obviously, that takes up a lot of your personal life. But I feel like there is a trade off with this. We've talked about this in previous episodes before. If you're wanting to create the success and create this money, then there is a bit of a trade off to play with. But I feel like it kind of clashes with your personal life sometimes. It's always good to take a break and also create that balance. So it's nice to hear that obviously with certain periods of time you're really busy, but then with other periods of time you kind of calm it down and allocate responsibility to other users when you can. But moving on to the final question about Tsunami. What are some of the things that members have in store for them in the future in Tsunami?
So right now, like a lot of you guys know that we have the Tsunami tool where we have like a bunch of features like a Shopify account generator, Shopify bypass, like account generators, premium store, a proxy generator, and stuff like that. And we're doing like a whole new rewrite. It's gonna be like a 1.0 version of it, and it's gonna just be completely different. We're gonna have so much more. We have raffles. We're gonna have a bunch of other stuff that we're actually surprising the members with. We haven't announced it yet, but some big stuff that really should make the group go up and make it just like one of those like things that just like really define the group. So hopefully that's gonna be out before the end of this month. One of the big things is definitely the Tsunami tool. We just added a ton of monitors. We have like 3 full package monitors that I'm paying like almost $3,000 a month for. So I feel like the members really like those, like the amount of like information from these monitors and all this just different stuff that I've just been dumping in the last month is crazy.
So if you guys are wanting to join Tsunami based on the information you just seen, if you guys are already in there, then that's amazing. You guys have got a lot planned for you guys. However, if you guys want to join, we're going to do a restock in the episode. It's the second part of today's episode. So within the next minute or so, I'll put the link on screen. There will be a silence after this part. I will go ahead and let you guys go for the restock. It is a limited amount, so you have to be very, very quick. And then after restock, I will do a 2-minute little break. So if you guys want to go get a drink or something after the restock, you guys can chill. I will be in the chat, so do not go anywhere. We have the final section with F3. So guys, if you guys managed to be successful on that Tsunami reset, go ahead and tweet us at Tsunami at TheBotTalk. We'll go ahead and retweet everything. If you guys are in the chat right now and you guys didn't manage to secure a W, we have something in store for the end of the episode, guys. So continue watching, drop a like if you guys haven't already, and subscribe if you guys are new. We're jumping straight into the final section of today's episode. How did you go from the point of reselling and botting to starting F3?
I guess it first started with I guess Shefadar, and I was doing his bot and all that, actually telling about Zekron, who's actually the developer of Feather, and he was telling about how he has this because at the time Feather was actually like his personal bot for EU, and we kind of like he kind of shaped it so we can go public with it. And while he was working on that, he was telling me about like everything he does and like how fast it was. Like he was showing me like the monitor and how fast it was picking up projects and stuff. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Cause I was going from an extension where it was just going through like the browser and clicking on stuff to this full request bot, which was just it was just crazy at the time. So from there I was telling him like, look how much I built this bot up. I can do the same thing for you. And then um he said, "Okay, let's do it." And then I started promoting Feather on Twitter, and just like I think within like the first like 2 or 3 weeks, we already had like 7,000 followers or something crazy. So it's something that just like blew up out of nowhere, and we just kept on going with it. And now we're just like the biggest, one of the biggest Supreme bots that are on social media.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with that. I feel like we've talked about this before. When you have a reputable name in the community and you have a following from before, people see your next project and go and invest their following into it and their interest. So it's really nice to see F3 got that big boost at the beginning, kind of act as a catalyst to the rest of its growth and creating its name within the community. So moving on to the next question, where did the name F3 come from?
So actually, it was one day I was actually in my kitchen. I was starting. I was listening to music at the same time, and I don't know if you remember if you went on the MySpace restock. You actually had to listen to a song and figure out what the word that was in the song. And the song at the time was "Birds" by Migos, and it was talking about just like all these like bird like theme things, and that's where I came over with the word feather. And I like I sent a DM to Zekron, and I was like, "How do you like? How do you feel about the word feather?" And it was like random as it was so random, like why feather? And we were just like playing with the name, and in his name it actually goes Z3K, and that's how we got the three from in feather from his name. And he's like, I don't know how I feel about this. So then I was like, screw that. I'm just gonna just make the logo. So I DM'd this guy. I was like, can you make a logo for me? Like, just have like F3 and like a feather in the background. And he shot me a DM the next day, and it was that I sent to him. He's like, yeah, this is a pretty good logo. So we'll just stick with the name. So that's how we came with the name, which is like something random. And he didn't even like it at first. And I was just like, we need to do this anyways.
Yeah, I feel like choosing a name for a product is very, very important. Those kind of random words with random meanings from random stories, like you said, like a song, does kind of accumulate to creating this big name that people are going to remember. So making it catchy, making it able to roll off the tongue very well is definitely important when creating a name. But moving on to the next question, what were the beginning days of F3 like for all the users?
For all the users, I mean, it was definitely, for me, it was a pretty high demand because I was only support. So, I guess for the users, they were just questions and they would just hear this one guy just keep telling them the answers. So it's just like crazy. Like if you look at bot companies now, like you see like 10 support staff. And at the time we had like I don't know, 400 or 500 members at the start, and I was just like answering everybody's question. Like, no, we had no support bot or anything, just a support channel and a chat, and that's it. And I was just like, they would ask me something, I was like a bot. I would just respond back so fast. I was like, I knew what they were asking before they even asked. So, so it was just something like that where it was just like constant demand. They would just hear like this one person talk, and just like I guess it was like more close knit because they didn't have like all these people to go to for resources. They just had like me where I was just like helping everybody at the same time. So definitely something different than what you see in most bond companies now.
Yeah, I can actually resonate with that. When I was working for Adept, it was literally me and another support member. He kind of came late in the week when I was recruited, but literally I was just answering everyone's questions, and you kind of create this rhythm, and it's kind of weird. I've talked to a couple of support members on episodes, and I don't know if you felt like this, but I kind of felt a bit of satisfaction from filling the knowledge gap with certain people if they didn't know how to run tasks in a certain way, if they didn't know how to prepare for a certain site lag and stuff like that. I felt like informing them and teaching them how to use the bot was very satisfying, because when you see them post success in your success channel, you're like, okay, I taught them how to do that, and they went ahead and made like X amount of dollars. So it's very, very satisfying to see.
It was crazy when we had our first successful day. Like it was just like crazy to see all the success and just like really no better feeling from somebody like in my position or any other the devs. I guarantee they would agree with me where they would say seeing like their users just have so much success and being so joyful is one of the best feelings. And there's literally like an inverse. If everybody flops, they become like the worst people to deal with. They just complain and just like it's one of the worst feelings.
With that being said, moving on to the next question. What were some of the valuable things you've learned from running F3?
Definitely, time management is a good one. Another thing is just knowing or just not assuming everybody knows the answer to everything. I guess doing like all these bot things is something definitely different from what most people are used to, where you're running tests, what keywords are, what delays are, how delays work. Like most of the people who first come to the community have never used like millisecond time. Like whenever you ever use that, you use like hold time, like 1 second, not 1,000 milliseconds. So it's definitely something people have to adjust. And when I would first start, I just assumed people knew what they were doing, and I just had to kind of adjust to that. Where okay, this guy's probably new; he doesn't know what he's doing, and we have to like slowly just like kind of work with him and show him what to do. So it's definitely something that I've learned, not just assume that everybody knows to really work with them.
Yeah, I feel like some users do come across like they know a lot of things, but when in reality, when you actually talk to them, they don't know some things. And I feel like educating them kind of maximizes the success with the bot and kind of creates that value for money. And overall, it increases the success of the bot, which makes the bot look better. So overall, it works all around. But moving on to the next question, what were some of the positive things you've taken away from owning F3?
I think just being also like the same thing I talked about with Tidal, just like getting connections. There's like so many people that come to you like to ask questions, especially group owners and devs and all that. There's just like so much information that you actually learn from all these people and just like collaboration and just like different stuff like that. Is definitely something that's really rewarding, and especially during like the beginning of the season when everybody wants your bot, everybody just DMs you for group buys and stuff. It's just crazy to just imagine how many groups there actually are. Like, like everybody talks about all these like these top 10 groups, let's say whatever they are, and everybody knows who they are. But there's just so many other groups that you have no idea that are there. Like, there's all these like owners and admins who DM me. I'm like, what group do you work for? And they just tell me the name. Like, I never even heard of that. But like, we're not doing group buys at the moment, so it's just like something crazy. It's just crazy the amount of groups there are. Because I was actually looking at, the title bot the other day, and because on that bot, it tells us how many, servers that is actually watching, like our market bot to get the market prices and all that, and just, like, the amount of servers that's in where you would have no idea, um, it's just crazy, like, the numbers are so high. I'm trying to look at it right now. It's currently in 431 servers. That means 431 cook groups and whatever that's in right now that people can use, like, the title bot command in. So that's just, like, a crazy amount.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see because, like, when I started the bot talk, I did get some groups DM me about giveaways and stuff like that, and also we offer promotion on the episodes as well. And like, I'd get DMs from certain groups like, "Yo, we're from Wikipedia AIO," like just random names with random letters,
Yeah.
and I was like, not to be rude or anything, but like, it kind of makes me understand how many groups there truly are because I've never heard of them, and I click on their profile, they've got a couple of thousand followers, and I'm just like, well, I've never heard of you, and you clearly got a member base, otherwise you wouldn't be operating. So it's really interesting to see
Yeah.
how certain people invest money and time into other groups versus the top 10 groups. So it's really interesting to see how many groups there actually are. And it's obviously it is a saturated market. That's just kind of how it is within sneaker botting. Any new market that comes up, people will copy the idea and trying to invest and kind of create their own spin on it. That's just how it is. But it's really nice to see that there's loads of groups and everyone's trying to create this community aspect. But moving on to the next question. Flipping the coin, what were some of the negative things you've taken away from running F3?
Some of the negative things, I guess, getting a lot of hate, especially when you're down. When Feather's doing really good, everybody loves it. Everybody wants to be part of it. But there are definitely times like 2 seasons ago when we were actually down for quite a while. I think it was like half a season or so where we actually were flopping like almost every release. It was crazy, and just the amount of hate and the amount of people who, like just knock you down is just crazy. Just like one day, 1 week you can do like crazy and cop like so much or whatever, and then the next week you just flop and everybody's just like throws like all this stuff at like the bot, just talking about how garbage it is and whatever, and it's crazy. Just like how people can switch up so fast.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with your point that I feel like people do switch their opinion very, very fast. The next big thing comes up, they switch to that. And I feel like a lot of people need to maintain that kind of faith in the bot, and I feel like people need to maintain trust in the owners, because I feel like obviously you guys don't want to see your bot fail. You don't want to see it being inconsistent. The last thing you want is that, because obviously you're losing money, you're losing your reputation, and it kind of leads on to worse things. But I feel like people need to create that type of consistent value to the product they're using and not sell it just because it's flopping, and kind of maintain and stick with it, because literally those people that sold their copies for like $100, $150 or retail at that time when it was flopping could regret it now, because the market kind of jumped up to like $800 at one point, and obviously there was a huge margin to make loads of money. Everyone knows that the F3 resale price blew up coming into this season, so I feel like people regret that, and it kind of gives you incentive going forward for all the viewers just to keep your bots and maintain faith in them when they do have down periods. Moving on to the next question: how do you handle times mentally and like in your space when the bot doesn't do as successful as it should, or it completely flops?
I guess a lot of the stuff that I try to do is just like show people that that this isn't something that's gonna be permanent. Something will change. I know a few weeks ago, I think it was around when the phones dropped, we weren't doing that good, and it took about 2 or 3 releases for us to get like fully back into it. And I told them like just before the week that the update, like the big update was coming, I was like, we have all this stuff coming, we have hybrid coming, we used to use this, like this is something that's going to be something big for us, and we're going to have a lot of success. And it was when we had like very minimal success, and everybody's like just like kind of like mocking, I guess, like a lot of people shouted in my DMs saying like, oh, I don't think that's going to actually work, whatever. And the drop came and we actually like outcooked like a lot of people, so it was kind of crazy, just having like that positive energy and just making sure everybody knows like, okay, we have like stuff coming. There's been times like every bot goes into this situation where they go down, like they start doing a little bit bad, and then it's like, I guess it's up to the determination of the dev or the bot team to actually put the work in and try to figure out what's going on and how to fix it.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with your points there, and I feel like that is something that bot owners and group owners, whenever unsuccessful things come their way, they need to try create a type of mindset to go into to handle all the hate. But obviously users that are entitled to their own opinion, they can create these opinions on things they don't know. So I feel like it's definitely good to ignore some of it sometimes and just focus on building towards back up that consistent success that these bots and groups do have. But moving on to the final question of today's episode: what are your future plans for F3 updates along that type of nature?
One of the some of the future plans I can't really too much about. One of the 3.0, that's something that we've been planning for a pretty long time. There's always some obstacles in the way, some things that come up with Supreme where we actually have to do bigger updates on the current version where uh, we don't want it just to keep flopping or whatever, because we're working on the 3.0. But I think a lot of things that members don't understand is like, if a bot's working, there's no point in making like this big 3.0 update, whatever. If the bot's working, it's working. There's no point in just like adding all this other stuff to it. So that's one of the things. But there's actually another project that we're actually coming out with hopefully by the end of the month. We're actually been working pretty hard on it right now, and we're excited to hopefully get out before the season's done and before some of these easy releases come. So pretty excited about that.
Whoa, guys, I have never heard that before. I'm pretty sure none of you guys have heard that before unless you're in the inner circle of F3. So, very, very exciting things coming. As you guys can hear it from my voice, I'm very excited for that as well. A lot of big things coming. But if you guys are sat there right now and you guys don't have F3, we have an opportunity for you guys. Shaba has given me the chance to give you guys a restock in that episode. So, what I want you guys to do right now in the chat, drop a like on today's episode, subscribe if you guys are new. If you guys are watching this on Spotify, make sure to follow. But the restock will commence within the next minute. I want you guys to type W in the chat for good luck on this. Guys, this restock will be interesting. It won't be like any other restocks in the episode so far. So be ready, be vigilant. Good luck, guys.